So what advice would you have for somebody who who wants to screw the commute? And that's the name of your podcast. Someone who doesn't want to commute anymore. Someone wants to start their own business. Who wants to become a millionaire. What would you recommend?
Well, shooting for the millionaire or multimillionaire status, which I hit 21 years ago, shouldn't be the thing. It should be taking care of people with whatever your idea is, servicing them. I actually wrote a book one time called The One Sentence Business Plan. So if every company on earth would do this, they wouldn't have to spend $1 million on a consultant to make a business plan that nobody's going to follow.
Yeah.
So the one sentence business plan is to create quality products that people actually want at a reasonable price and service them after the sale. That's the way I've lived my whole life since I'm 10 years old.
Hello, and welcome to the Onward Podcast. I'm the host of the Onward Podcast, Emily Harmon. The Onward Podcast features authentic conversations on facing adversity, moving forward, and discovering ourselves along the way. This episode is entitled 7 Years, 6 Days a Week equals Broke but Alive. Listen and learn why my guest, Tom Antion, suggested this title. Tom has never had a job. A J-O-B job. Furthermore, he's an internet multimillionaire guy next door and founder of the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. He's the subject of a Hollywood documentary, The American Entrepreneur, that's going to premiere soon. I provided a link in the show notes. Also, Tom overcame a devastating business loss, which was, he says, the best thing that ever happened to him. Listen and learn as Tom tells us that you can suffer a loss and come out with your head held high. And also, you're not what happens to you. He also reminds us to give before you get, and that things are up to you and nobody else. Check out the show notes for Tom's free giveaway, which is called Free Screw the Commute Automate. Check it out. It's a book. He gives tons of good tips in this episode about how to make money online and how to stand out in a crowded field of people doing business on the internet. I know you're going to enjoy this episode of the Onward Podcast, which is brought to you by my coaching business, Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Check out my website, Emily, Harman, Harmon.com, to learn about the different kinds of coaching offerings I have and also how to schedule a coaching call with me, and we can tailor a program to meet your needs. Look, you've probably heard me say it before. We all can use a coach. I have a coach. I have several coaches, and they have really helped me accelerate my progress to learn more about myself. Check out my website or the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. Let's get to know one another. Even if we don't decide to work together, I can connect you with other coaches, and I'm sure you'll find the call beneficial. Besides, I just love to meet my Onward Podcast guests and have a conversation. I will not pressure you into getting coaching or to making a sale. Hey, let's move onward together.
I'm so excited to be here with Tom Antion. I started to play my outro, the video that I play at the very end. But if you're here, let me know that you're here. And I'm excited to talk with Tom. He has a lot of information that he can share with us about how we can make money on the internet, how we can become millionaires. I hope that we get some tips on that. I met Tom in a podcasting mastermind just a few months ago, and I was on his podcast called Screw the Commute. And I love that name, that title. And I think a lot of us are ready to screw the commute. We haven't been commuting too much due to COVID, but as we start to go back, I think some of us are thinking, I don't know if I really like that commute. I'm looking forward to learning more from Tom about why he named his podcast that and everything else. So let's add Tom to the stream. Hi, Tom.
Welcome. Hey, what's up?
I'm glad that you're here. I'm very interested to understand why you named the title of your show this 6 years times 7 days per week, broke but alive.
Yeah,
there's a story behind that title.
Well, first of all, the name of the podcast is Screw the Commute because I never had a job.
Yeah.
My whole career, I've been 44 years in formal business, and even since I was 10 years old, doing side hustles as a kid. But one of the businesses was a nightclub. And in my youth, my ridiculous, stupid youth, I decided to take over a biker bar and clean it up and make it a real nice family restaurant and nightclub. And I don't know, call me crazy. Those bikers just didn't appreciate my efforts. So I was in two gunfights, knife fights, over 100 violent encounters with bikers trying to kill me. They blew up my car with double-aught buck shotguns and set my sign on fire. And so,
How old were you?
I was about 27 or so, something like that.
So you didn't ask their opinion on the
I thought I'll come in there and they'll really appreciate me. So the rest of the neighborhood did, but these people didn't. And so it was 7 days a week for 6 years. That's where we get the 6 times 7 thing. And I got 4 days off a year, which was Christmas Day, New Year's Day, but that really didn't count because New Year's Eve, you're just, it's crazy. So you're just shot. Easter and something else. I don't know. 4 days off a year for 7 years straight.
That
and
seems
then,
like a job to me.
Well, it was interesting. You're still your own boss, but you had all this money tied up in the place. I couldn't leave, even in the face of all these bikers trying to kill me, because I would have lost everything, which I did anyway. And what happened was this is 7 days a week for 6 years, and I'm on my way to being a millionaire before I turn 30. And then one swipe of the legislative pen, the drinking age went from 18 to 21.
Yes.
And this is a college town outside of Morgantown, West Virginia. Hi, Kenneth. How are you? Nice
Hi,
you to stop by. And wiped me out. I lost $400,000. And this is in the 80s. Okay, so this is a lot of money. This is equivalent to well over $1 million, and lost it all. But the reason I say it was the best thing that ever happened, because I'm not sure, being 100-0 on my fights, how long I could keep that up. So somebody would have got me one of these days. So that was a good thing that I got out of it. But the other thing was one of these character evidence things. And what happened was my dad came from Syria on a cattle boat. They're actually doing a documentary about his life and making me into an entrepreneur and all that stuff. But he taught me, you treat people right. My small town, your handshake meant something. It's there was only 500 people in my hometown, and we lived in the suburbs.
Which town was that? What was
Claysville, Pennsylvania. It was named after the great statesman Henry Clay, which he never really slept there. His horse took a dump there on the way through, and that was good enough for us. But we lived in the sticks. I mean, when I say the suburbs, there was no suburbs. Still to this day, the town is 500 people. Okay. So this is out in the boonies, but the thing is you learned how to work. You got a work ethic. You didn't screw up. It's one of those situations where if you screw up, the neighbor can correct you and not get sued over it. It takes a village kind of thing. And so my dad taught me, man, you don't screw people over. So I had a choice. When this drinking age happened, I could have gone bankrupt. And I'm sitting there thinking it's 4:00 in the morning. The place is empty. I'm sitting there thinking all this work down the drain. I said, I cannot screw over the people that believed it. I can't do it. My dad would be rolling over in his grave, and it's just not right. So I immediately went to every creditor. We had tons of food, and there was a pizza shop and pizza ovens. We had all this equipment and everything. It was the second biggest nightclub in the whole state. So it was a big deal. And so I went immediately. I didn't wait. I went immediately to every creditor. And I said, you know me, this just happened to me. I wasn't an old drunk drinking up all the profits and letting the place go to heck. I said, if you give me time, I'll pay every nickel that I owe you. And of course, I didn't have much choice. I could have gone bankrupt. Anyway.
How were you so sure that you'd be able to pay them back? Were you sure, or were you just saying that?
Well, I'm young and strong, and whatever it took. I could work or do whatever I had to do. I mean, I wasn't about to work because I was going to be an entrepreneur, start another business, or do something. Hey, there's 2 Kenneth Dunners here. Look at that. Him and his twin are here. Look at that.
Tom is such a character. Yes, he is.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, Kenneth. So I'm not even warmed up. So, yeah, I mean, there was no question that whatever I had to do, if I had to starve to death, I was going to pay these people back. And if I went back to that town today, those people would say, that's the guy that didn't screw us over. So that's the kind of character that came from my dad, pretty much. I mean, you're sitting here talking to my dad, basically. And he passed away about 20 years ago at 94. And
What did he do when he came over from Syria?
well,
You were like,
he came over on a cattle boat from Syria at about 3 years old. By 10 years old, he was head of household, and he was shining shoes to get enough money to buy an information product, no less, from the American school, which was from the 1800s. And he took an electrical engineering course. And by 13, he had his own electrical contracting firm, and he put the first electric light bulb in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. So, yeah.
wow.
So
He's an entrepreneur.
yeah, he was. So that's all I saw as I grew up. And I'm the baby of 6 boys, and that's all I saw. And then he was from Pittsburgh. They all settled in Pittsburgh, all these Syrian people. And when I was coming around, he thought, this is too dangerous to this bad steel town. It was rough place in those days. And he said, I'm going to get out of here. So he took every nickel he had, moved 60 miles out of town, bought a bulldozer, bought some property, which I own to this day, and took the bulldozer with diesel fuel and knocked off the top and started building cabins and a truck stop. This was National Route 40, goes all the way coast to coast. And that's I said, that's all I saw. And then what happened to him was Route 70, the interstate, bypassed us, put him out of business. So he became a union electrician for 50 years, and he was never out of work. In fact, in the Depression, see, he died at 94 20 years ago. So
Wow.
he was up there. But in the Depression, part of the thing they covered in the documentary was that he couldn't sit still and be out of work. He said, you know what? I'm strong and able. I don't care if they pay me or not. I'm not going to sit here when the country needs help. So there was an apple loading plant not far from him. He just went in and started loading apples. And the foreman came over and said, who's that guy? And then they said, we don't know, but he's loading apples like a fiend. He was out loading everybody. And so they hired him. And so he taught that skill to his cousins and everybody else. And he was never out of work ever, because he was the best worker always wherever he went. And he passed that on to me. So you see this thing behind me, this picture behind me?
Yes. What does it say?
Well, it doesn't matter what it says. It's a baby with a pillow in front of it. And let me get out of the way here. And then there's a ball there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you remember Johnny Cash,
Mm-hmm.
the singer? Well, he wrote a song called A Boy Named Sue. And it was a song about an old drunk cowboy who figured he wouldn't be around to raise his kid. Hey, Gabriel, how are you? So he named him Sue. So the guy would get really tough and scrap and be tough as he grow up, because the old drunk cowboy wouldn't be there. So my dad was 50 when he had me. And he figured he wouldn't be around. He only went to second grade formal education. And so he figured he wouldn't be around. So from the time I could crawl, he would put pillows in front of me and my toys on the other side to teach me how to overcome obstacles.
Wow.
Yeah. And to this day, I'm totally, hey, Carol, how are you?
Hi, Carol.
Totally unstoppable. And I won't cheat anybody or step on them to get where I'm going. And this is a good lesson for your listeners, is that when people tell you can't do something, and if somebody tells me I can't do something, they better get out of the way as I blow by doing it. And the thing is when somebody tells you you can't do something, doesn't mean anything. What it means is they can't do it.
Right.
Has nothing to do with you at all. Right? So that was what I was taught as a child. And another principle, I don't want to mean to dominate here if you have questions, but I'm just, like I said, you're sitting here talking to my dad pretty much, but he taught me how to be excellent. He says, and I remember vividly, I'm maybe 9, 10 years old, and I'm watching him wire a panel for a home. All right. I'm standing, I'm with him at work. And so I said, hey, Dad, why don't you just cut across an angle there and save yourself some wire and some money on this job? Oh, that was the wrong thing to say to him. I remember, I still get goosebumps when I tell this story. He's looking at me with daggers in his eyes. He says, "Don't you ever, ever sacrifice excellence and quality to save a few pennies. Ever." Okay, Dad, I got it. And
Wow.
I'm 8, 9 years old. And so to this day, if I make a product, I take a couple extra days. I keep making it better and better and better. So my whole career has advanced like that because one of the things that'll happen is if you're excellent, if you pursue excellence, people notice. And then they ask you to teach them what you're doing. So my whole career developed like that. I decided to be excellent at something. People noticed. And then not only do I do what I'm trying to be excellent at, they ask me and pay me to teach them how I'm excellent at. And that's how my whole career developed is so I do what I'm doing and then I get paid to help other people learn how to do it. So
Yeah, I got some questions for you.
all
And
right.
it says, I bulldoze over anyone who tells me I can't do whatever. No ifs, ands,
Beautiful.
or buts about it, baby.
Yeah, and remind me to tell you about the butts part of what you just said there. I'm going to write this down because I got a story about that too.
Yeah, you got a story for everything. So you owned 5 apartment buildings and a hotel before you graduated from college.
Yep.
How old were you when you graduated from college?
21, something like that.
Before 21. So you're not someone who graduated at 50, you know?
No, and this wasn't any kind of silver spoon stuff where I was rich. I had started with nothing. So I remember vividly sitting at a place called Sunnyside. It's the middle of the campus of West Virginia University. And I'm reading a book by William Nickerson called How I Turned $1,000 into $1 million in Real Estate. This is long before the no money down craze was. And I said, well, I could do that. And my brother is saying, what's wrong with you? You can't buy apartments and stuff. I said, I don't even have a couch to repossess. What do I have to lose? So I found some old attorneys that owned apartments free and clear, and they wanted to retire, but they didn't want to pay the capital gains tax. So they sold them to me with no money down, and I just collected the rents, maintained the properties, and paid them off. And in those days, this was a college town. They rented per person. So it was like $125 a month per student. So at the time, they were remodeling Mountaineer Field, which is the football stadium at Morgantown. And they had these old full-size oak 6x6 seats that they were just throwing away to replace with plastic. I said, hey, can I have them? They said, yeah, take all you want. We're just taking them to the dump. So I went to Kmart and bought a $10 circular saw. This is stuff my dad taught me, use tools and be able to do stuff. And I ripped them down the middle and made 2x4s. And I remodeled the attic into a place where I could put 2 more students. That was another $250 a month clear. And I just did stuff like that. But the way the hotel came about, see, I was charging more to the students than I was paying in rent. So I rented from somebody else. So his name is Frank Beafor. He's still alive down in Florida somewhere. And every time he would come over to work on the house, I would say, Frank, I'm going to help you put those gutters on, but you teach me what you're doing, okay? So I would, and he'd teach me stuff every time he'd come over. And then at the end of the semester, he came over and said, Tom, I want to talk to you. And I'm thinking, oh, God, what do we do? Me and my roommate. He says, I've been renting apartments to students in this town for 25 years. He said, not once, ever has one of the kids offered to help me do anything, let alone ask to learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. He says, I own a hotel about 20 minutes from here in a different city, and I want to retire and move to Florida, and I want you to have it.
Wow.
He says, I will hold back the second mortgage. If you know anything about financing and stuff, he's going to hold back the second mortgage. He says, if you can come up with the first mortgage, then I'll hold back the second. You'll have no money down, and I'll teach you how to run it. Okay, Frank. And now the first lesson here is persistence. I had to go to 50 lending institutions because this is a big deal compared to a couple triplexes or duplexes.
Yeah, most people would have given up after 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I kept going, and I finally got the first mortgage. He held back the second, no money down. I went down 1 day a week to pick up the checks and the money. I had a manager at the place. I'd make small repairs. And I was making $65,000 a year just from that building while I was in college in 1970, 75.
Wow.
so, and then eventually the city bought the lot out for several $100,000. So I made about $500,000 on this in the 70s before I was even 23 years old. But the lesson is give before you get. Be a sponge, learn. And in today's atmosphere, Emily, oh my God, it doesn't take much to stand out from the crowd.
Well, I was going to ask you that. So give before you get. That's what your dad did too when he went and started working on the app.
Exactly.
Stuff, right? He gave before he got. But yeah, how does this apply in online business or as a coach? There's so many people on LinkedIn. How does one make themselves stand out?
Well, it's still to this day, give before you get. Now, there are some people that hold out and charge in enormous amounts to make themselves a false celebrity. But for the most part, you have to prove yourself and then solicit online reviews are so important nowadays. Real testimonials, not fake, because I also am a consumer advocate and have a TV show in development called Scam Brigade, where I go after bad people.
I better watch out. No.
Yeah, don't mess with Tom. So yeah, you have to prove yourself because so many people get the I'm going to get rich overnight kind of crap. And I've been doing this selling online since the commercial internet started in 1994. It was in the beginning. Carrie used to call me the OG, which I thought meant old guy, but apparently it's the original gangster. Yeah. I was thinking, why does he keep calling me an old guy? I mean, I know I'm old, but he didn't have to rub it in my
That's
face.
in the podcasting mastermind that we did together.
Right, yeah. The OG. He kept calling me the OG, so the original gangster. So I've been selling online and have seen all the scams, all the people come and go, robbing people. And so you have to develop over time a reputation of reliability. And that's where persistence comes in, consistency. People know what to when I speak, I'm all over the place and I'll hit you with a story and you'll be laughing and crying. But people know that if they give me money or if they do business with me, just like those people way back when I wouldn't go bankrupt, that it's going to be safe and they know that I will take care of them. And you have to build that reputation over time. But when I said about the bar being low, today's people coming up, they want to sit at the beach with their feet up and tell you how rich they are in front of their fake jet. Then they disappear. So you just have to be real with people and be fair. That's another thing that is a big deal in my life, is always being fair with people. Yeah. So I had to go after this one guy. He, people flew in to consult with him, but he got a better job. So he just said, heck with you. And he wouldn't pay their flights and all this stuff. And so he's got a reputation going the other way. Hey, Natalie. Hey, how you doing?
Kenneth wants you to tell him now about the butt.
About the butts? Okay. So mine is spelled B-U-T-T. And so this is part of the excellent stuff. So I got so good learning, selling on the internet, people started to notice. And they said, Tom, you got to do a boot camp. Well, one of my businesses was an entertainment company where I pretty much a professional comedian. So I'm thinking, everybody does boot camp. I can't do a boot camp. And I'm thinking about it. And I'm sitting here making money. Money's rolling in. And I said, I'm sitting here on my butt making all this money. I'll call it butt camp. And, and I did. It caught on. It's the longest continuously running internet marketing seminar ever. And I've done them in 11 countries around the world, except in London. They made me call it bum camp instead of butt camp. And so that's the butt camp story. But that's, again, being creative and setting yourself apart. You're going to cut out a lot of very super, stick up the butt conservative people, but right. Who cares? So you go after a market and it fits my personality. I came from entertainment. And so everything's going to be fun, but that doesn't mean it's not serious business. But one thing that's very important nowadays with people's short attention spans is whatever you do, have an entertainment value. James says, we just got Kenneth in the house.
Kenneth, yeah, sometimes people call each other out. So Kenneth is a popular podcast listener. So
okay. All right.
Says, James, savor the flavor, baby.
I thought maybe it was a dog.
To each other.
I thought maybe it was a dog. They just got him in from outside.
No. But so what do you sell on the internet? How have you made your millions?
Well, I started out selling some of the toughest stuff to sell on earth. Is I made my first fortune basically was selling public speaking information because people hate public speaking. So it wasn't the easiest. So this is my classic book right here called Wake 'em Up. And again, I'm always thinking, this is a bunch of people in the audience in bed, and I'm waking them up from stage.
Okay.
So this has been, colleges use this as a textbook and so forth. So that's where I made the money. But once you start getting known for really learning how to sell stuff on the internet, people started begging me to teach them internet stuff. And so I did that. But then I kind of get bored with stuff. So I came up with this concept, and I teach this like crazy to people, is how to make your hobbies tax deductible. And it's totally legitimate. I'm not an attorney or an accountant, but if you put up a website and if you know how to do it, you can put world-class websites up. It says no ifs, ands, and buts that you're an entertainer. Wait do you hear this, Kenneth? Wait do you hear this? What's coming? So I teach them how to make their hobbies tax deductible. You put up an inexpensive WordPress website with a responsive theme. Responsive means it looks good on cell phones and tablets. That's a must nowadays. And then you can either make a product on your hobby, or you can sell an affiliate product. In other words, somebody else has a product that you recommend and get a commission. Well, you're in business. That you don't have to start an LLC, a corporation, nothing. That's what business is. So I'm a tennis nut. And Emily, I have the dubious distinction of being the largest person ever to star and produce a tennis training video. Right? So it's called Fatso Tennis. You can see the site, Fatso Tennis. And the trailer to the video is me playing tennis and eating pizza at the same time. But everything's so expensive. The ball machine was $2,000. The rackets are $200 and everything. So I said, I need to make this tax deductible. So I created this DVD. And a lot of it is really, really the angles of the court. And, I can run young people to death before I drop dead because I'm too fat. So I run them like crazy. And but some of the gadgets, I don't know if you ever remember that movie with Kevin Costner, Tin Cup, but he was a golfer and he lost his mojo. So he's trying all these gadgets, so there's lots of gadgets for fat tennis people. So a tennis racket, this racket's up here and the handle's here, right? So there's this thing you can put on the butt of the racket. It's like a suction cup, so you don't have to bend over to pick the ball up. You can just push it down on the ball.
So your video was selling all this stuff?
Well, it wasn't. It was it's a $40 2 DVD set on all the crazy gadgets, but all the tips to run the young fast people to death before you drop dead.
Come up with a lot of creative ideas.
Well, yeah, and but anyway, it's making your hobbies tax deductible. So I've taught that to thousands of people because most people pay through the nose for their family interests, camping, and all this stuff. But they could become travel bloggers. They can do anything that can bring some money in. And there's no law in the United States anyway that says that you have to not enjoy your business. So if you enjoy it and get tax deductions from it, how much better could that be? I have a protection dog company. I've got a 2 protection dogs sitting over there and a rescue because I rescue dogs too. And they start at $25,000 for these dogs. So I started a company. I said, I don't want to pay that kind of money for a dog. So we started a protection dog company where I take the orders and do all the business and run the website. It's called Protection Dogs Elite. And then I pass it on to the professional trainers who source the dog, train the dog, and deliver the dog. And I get a commission off the top. Even though I'm not a professional trainer, I've learned a lot in 5 years about dogs, but I'm not a pro. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason you can't do this stuff with a little bit of knowledge. Now, would I pay for Fatso Tennis $5,000 for a website? Absolutely not. But for $150, you can't even talk to a web designer for that much. So we teach people how to do all that stuff.
Have you ever gotten into a position where you thought, I better go get a job?
Never. No, are you crazy?
You're laughing
Who would hire me? Oh my God, I'm totally unemployable because some person that's there from nepotism would tell me something and I would have to kill him probably. And then I'd be in jail.
So about how I worked in the military. You're like, I don't think I would ever go into the military.
Heck no. But again, your life experiences, again, can turn into internet businesses. Like all that stuff I went through. See, I was in martial arts from a kid. So we were breaking stuff and walking through streams in the winter barefoot and all that stuff, Shuriru karate. And then studied it all my life. But then when the nightclub came along, I'm thinking, man, if I punch somebody, I'll be in court all day long, and they'll. So I started learning Aikido and Aikujitsu, which means I can put enormous pain on you, but there's no bruising. So to get you out of the place, so did that. And then I kept it under my hat for years and years and years until I started seeing all these old people getting punched in the knockout game and the carjackings and everything. I said, I got to come out with this. So I came out with a thing called brutal self-defense. So it's pretty nasty. And it's a 14-hour course that I did live one time, recorded it, and then made an online course out of it to help people. And I tell you the truth, I give it away to a lot of my female friends and anybody that's, really needs to keep safe, because if I have this skill, I want to be able to save some people. And then that's part of being this kind of work is you can do a lot of good things for people. That's just one of them, but I rescue animals, and I've got this thing going now. I have the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. And we're doing a pilot program, persons with disability, because I've always thought that, hey, my stuff is perfect for people that have mobility problems.
Right.
Because they can legitimately learn a very high demand skill, internet and digital marketing, from home, and then legitimately work from home. Now, I've been preaching working from home for 23 years, but now because of the pandemic, everybody's like, oh, you can work from home. I didn't know that. So I thought this is the time for me to pounce. So we have a GoFundMe campaign, and we're putting 5 people through the program, and then I'll get them good jobs or get them their own business. And then I took a grant writing course so I can go for big money to help loads of people. But they say no good deed goes unpunished. Right? So the first 2 people, in my mind, this is where I think Stephanie, one of your guests the other day, said you got to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking these are mobility problems. People, service people without legs, or, they got trouble with their hands and stuff. First 2 people that apply are blind.
Yeah, you weren't prepared for that.
How did I get into this? And so imagine this. How do you do Instagram if you're blind? But I'll tell you what, the 2 blind people in the program, unbelievably inspirational. One guy cuts his grass better than me. He's 2,500 vision.
Wow, 2,500.
Yeah, the other lady can only see a little bit of light, and they're just so inspirational. So whenever I'm crying to my blues or feeling down, I'm like, yeah, boy, look what they go through every day. So I'm real proud to be able to help them. And so some of the money we use from the GoFundMe is going to hire persons with disabilities to help run the program.
That's
but you can do this kind of powerful stuff if you're not making somebody rich sitting in a car in traffic all day long.
What kind of a student were you? What kind of grades did you get in school?
I was a valedictorian in my high school. Now, in my small town, there was only 3 of us.
Yeah. So, 500 people in the whole town. But.
Yeah, I like the people that say they were homes. No, the guy said, I was class president. I was king of the prom. Not bad for being homeschooled.
Yeah, voted best looking.
Yeah.
Going. So then did you go to West Virginia University?
Yeah, I went on a football scholarship. Yeah, and this was back before they had face masks, this leather helmet. No,
okay.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, what did you study in college?
Well, I started in pre-dentistry, but they took that away, and I'm so glad, because I spent 1 semester auditing a dental hygiene class. That was good because it was me and 28 dental hygienists, but I was the only guy. But I thought I'm not cut out to wear a little jacket and sit. So I learned that wasn't good. So I went into psychology and business. But the psychology didn't work out for me that good, because I think that, from what I recall, they kicked me out because I was always leaning towards electric shock treatment for people. So I definitely was into business. And of course, like I said, I had apartment buildings and a hotel before I graduated. But West Virginia University, I've never watched a football game since I graduated, ever. Mm-hmm. I'm not a sports nut. And I'll tell you why. When you're on the inside, you see there's a lot of dirty, dumb stuff. They'll put anybody there They don't have to go to school. They'll put anybody that can run fast in there. And I was kind of turned off to that. But I do hear that there was 31 people in my freshman scholarship athletes. Only 6 of us graduated. The rest of them got thrown out, flunked out, dead, in jail, whatever. But I hear that they're cleaning things up. I heard recently that to get a letter now in sports there, you just have to know what letter it is. Yeah, I mean,
say what letter that is in the alphabet. Okay.
Some of these people were, they had no business. My roommate had no business being there. He was 6'5", could bench 365 pounds after drinking beer all summer, and ran a 4.9 40-yard dash. Massive guy. Couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't spell. I got him through his first semester, but then he flunked out. But he was a great woodworker. He didn't belong there. They kind of did him a disservice. He was, they took him out of his natural element just because it was football, So I was very turned off with the whole thing. And, it's raw on the outside, but inside there's a lot of dirty stuff that goes along. Yeah.
This podcast is about facing adversity. You've talked about some adversity that you faced when you bought that restaurant and the bikers weren't too happy that you were converting it. And then when the drinking age changed. And then it's also about like discovering yourself along the way. So what have you learned about yourself?
Well, I didn't even tell you what happened right after the nightclub.
What?
So, and this leads right into your question. Well, I'm out of business from 7 days a week to nothing per week to do. So I'm playing racquetball after being really sedentary for 6 years, just bartending and stuff. And I tore my Achilles tendon.
Ow,
which is worse than breaking your leg.
Yeah.
And this other guy I was partnering with on another business canceled the health insurance and didn't tell me. So I was had no health insurance. I was luckily a friend of mine had a vacant house, and he let me stay there. I had a mattress, a table, a chair, which I couldn't sit on because I couldn't even get out of bed with my torn Achilles, and a black and white TV, which most of your listeners never even seen one, let alone. So I went from being one of the best known people in the entire state to living off credit cards in a vacant house on a mattress. And so this is where your character has to kick in again. So I remember Dad always telling me to stay upbeat in the face of adversity. And having been kind of a jokester all my life, I surrounded myself, and this sounds a little cliche, but I surrounded myself with humor books and kept laughing and trying to stay upbeat. Just like I said, I was living off credit cards. And I was watching Candid Camera on this black and white TV. Most people know what that is. And Candid Camera, everybody loves, but you can't participate unless you live in California and get caught by the Candid Camera. So I'm sitting there doodling, and I doodle this little devil sticking his tongue out at you, which is now my federally registered trademark for a company I started called Prank Masters. We custom design practical jokes long before Punk'd was on TV or Jackass or any of those crazy shows. We did 4,000 of them in and around Washington, D.C. when the company was running. But the thing is if I hadn't kept my mind open with laughter and humor and not be worried and wound up like a drum in that nastiest situation of my life, I would have never thought of this idea. So anyway, I moved to DC, starved to death for 6 months running the company. And then the Washington Times did a feature article on it. And I started getting a lot of calls. And then the Washington Post picked it up. I started getting a lot of calls. And then Associated Press picked it up.
Wow.
I got 1,500 radio and TV stations around the world calling me. I was doing interviews all the time. The business went crazy. I was doing the Tokyo Today show. I was doing the Australian Broadcast Network, all this stuff. Business went crazy. And all of this stemmed from the fact that I stayed upbeat and open in the face of adversity rather than, oh, woe is me, I didn't deserve this, and, crying the blues. Because you're responsible. No matter what happens to you, you're responsible to get out of it. Nobody else is going to come get you out of it. So that moment watching Candid Camera changed my entire path of my life to take me to Washington, D.C., to start me in this crazy business, which led to my speaking career, and then the internet came along, which led to that. And then I spoke on internet all around the world. So that one little moment in time was a really critical thing. So you can't blow off moments in time because you don't only get so many.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for somebody who who wants to screw the commute? And that's the name of your podcast. Someone who doesn't want to commute anymore. Someone wants to start their own business. Who wants to become a millionaire. What would you recommend?
Well, shooting for the millionaire or multimillionaire status, which I hit 21 years ago, shouldn't be the thing. It should be taking care of people with whatever your idea is, servicing them. I actually wrote a book one time called The One Sentence Business Plan. So if every company on earth would do this, they wouldn't have to spend $1 million on a consultant to make a business plan that nobody's going to follow.
Yeah.
So the one sentence business plan is to create quality products that people actually want at a reasonable price and service them after the sale. That's the way I've lived my whole life since I'm 10 years old. So in the internet world, your knowledge will save you. So you study like crazy, you get a reliable mentor. Kind of says, have you considered writing a memoir of your scrumptious, delicious, edibly tasty, good, heartfelt life of you? I'm only a third of the way through, Kenneth. I don't know. I don't know what to put in it.
That's a good idea, though. He's written several books.
I've written 25 books so far. Yeah,
but you even have a course on that, right?
I have an ebook course. But
how many businesses do you have?
Well, most of it's under the one. I have a rental business, and then a lot of these side hustles are under the one corporate entity. So the protection dogs and the Fatso tennis, that's all just websites feeding into the same checking account. So only a couple.
Over complexity, yes.
Yeah, simple. And I created the corporation, I don't know how many years ago now, from a $50 book said How to Start Your Corporation for $50 by Ted Nicholas. So I grew up very frugal. My dad came with not even any shoes from Syria. So, I mean, I can't even brush my teeth and let the water run because I hear my dad saying, don't waste things. Don't waste water. We had to buy used lumber. And then me and the other boys had to straighten it, take the nails out, straighten them out so my dad could reuse them. All right, so that's what I came up from, which brings me to another part of the answer is don't overspend. Every time you spend more than you need to start your business or to run your business, you have to make way more just to get back to being broke.
Right? Yeah, that's true. Hi, Paul. Paul Pettit. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Paul's been on the podcast a couple of times. So you're right. And then I know because I just started my coaching business a couple of years ago. And when you go to start a business and you have your website, and there's all these people telling you this is how you make 5,000 or 10,000 in a month. This is how you start a Facebook group. This is how you should write your LinkedIn profile. This is how you should set up your website. And you can go crazy with all these. This is how you should do this stuff. And what I've learned is you really have to figure out what works for you because they're selling what worked for them.
Well, yeah, unless somebody's got lots of experience with multiple people. Like I've had 1,700 students over the last 23 years. And that's just the ones that are my students. I mean, tens of thousands of people in the speeches.
I bet you don't in-mail people on LinkedIn and saying, hi, I'm Tom. I can tell you a service dog or whatever. I can tell you this DVD on Fatso tennis. I bet you don't just blindly in-mail people.
No, but I did send 2 in-mails to a big shot at Walmart and a big shot at Target, only because I read an article that they are paying for the tuition for their people that work for them. And so I just said, how do I get my school to apply? I didn't beg them for work or anything. I just asked them how to apply for my school. But that's the only 2 I've ever sent, ever. See, celebrities don't cold call. You want, before the internet came along, my whole business was built on publicity. I would get radio, TV, print, and make people call you. Because when people call you, the whole power struggle of the call is different. Yeah. They want to see, are you available and can we afford you?
Like with me, I wish it would get this way for my business. Maybe it will soon. But I've got a long list of people who want to be on my podcast.
Yeah,
I
and
don't have
that's
to go find podcast guests.
no, and
I've
it's
got to
good to
narrow that
having a
down.
podcast is especially good because you can get to people that you couldn't get to other ways in a
Mhm.
different, and you're equal to them. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's awesome. So I built the business with publicity before the internet started, but now that the internet's here, a couple things you need to do. You need to learn how to make a web page yourself. Do not go spend $5,000 on something. We can make world-class websites for $150 all day long. In fact, I got Best of the Web in Inc. magazine and beat out 3 other $1 million websites from big companies. And the panel of CEOs said, well, why'd this guy win? They said, well, we could find what we wanted fast and it was easy to navigate. Not all the fancy bells and whistles. I mean, the websites nowadays will do your dishes for you. I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing is that's not what you got to give people what they want. And then don't be a jack of all trades. So when you can make a website inexpensively, you can have one for each topic. Don't
Mhm.
lump them all together because you'll always look like not the expert. You'll look like a jack of
Right.
all trades. Like
Yeah.
I don't put my Fatso tennis site on my internet marketing mentor program. See,
Right.
so or
Different
my
clients.
protection dogs. Yeah, it's a different thing altogether. So get your knowledge, get help from credible people, do a lot of research to make sure that because so many of the people can make fake testimonials. There's so many people out there. There's thousands of testimonials. They're all fake. So you got to really, really do your due diligence before you spend any money with anybody.
How do you know if it's a fake testimonial or not? How do you know?
Well, you start seeing loads of people saying roughly the same thing because they only write so many fake ones and then they spread them around all over the place. So if you're doing your due diligence, you'll run into virtually identical testimonials by 2 different people. And it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. The 2
Yeah.
people unrelated are not going to say the exact thing.
Right.
So you just have to do your due diligence and ask around and find people that have worked with them and so forth. But it's not easy. But still, you can learn a lot of this stuff on your own. I did in the beginning but I didn't make any money until I got a good mentor. His name was Corey Rudel, and he was making $5 million a year in 1996 out of his apartment. He was the real deal. And that was my first teacher. And then as soon as I got good training, that's when I started making money. So do your due diligence, but keep your costs really low and then your profit margin high. And with digital products, they're 97% profit. Now, I don't remember the last time we printed this book because the digital version is $20. This is $24.95, and then we got to ship it and go to the post office and labor. And so people are happy with digital stuff, and they get it right away. They're all happy, but it's 97% profit. And no shipping, no going to the post office. So concentrate on digital products. And there's loads of ways you can make money without even a website. I mean, when people come to me, Emily, and they say, well, we want to make money fast. I get that all the time. You know where I send them? I think it'll surprise you. eBay. You can make no website. You can have money coming in tomorrow. And I told you I'm very frugal, right? So I buy off of these buying apps like Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp and eBay, and I buy stuff all the time. And so I bought something off of eBay. And the guy was local. I bought a tool.
Mhm.
So I go over to his house. He's got this $500,000 motorhome. House is beautiful. He comes to the door dressed beautifully, invites me in down to his shop to buy this tool. So we go down the hallway, go down the steps, all the way down towards his shop. And Emily, everything to this point is normal. Okay. I look over in his basement. There are hundreds of ladies' bras hanging from the ceiling in his basement. I'm thinking, oh my God, he lures you in with the tool, kills you, and hangs your underwear up. I'm thinking all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm watching him like a hawk, and everything is normal. He's saying, oh, here's the tool, and I used to use it, but I got this new one, so I'll let it go. We're talking about it, our dads, and I buy the tool, and we're going out. And of course, I stay behind him because I don't want him hitting me with the hammer. And I said, hey, what's the deal with all these bras? And he says, oh, my daughter goes to all the thrift stores. She has all the sizes, and the people at the thrift store know her. She buys them, cleans them up, repairs them, and sells them on eBay. I said, oh, okay. He said, she made $200,000 last year selling them on eBay.
Wow.
used bras on eBay. And I'm thinking, now my mind is really going, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh man, if I hang around the bra department at thrift stores, they'll call the police on me or something. You know? Yeah. So, and another friend of mine, she takes 80 to $100 to yard sales every Saturday. Now, if you go to eBay, right up near the search box, there's a little link that says advanced search. If you click on it, it brings, and you check this other box that says completed listings only. It'll bring up whatever you're searching for, all the auctions in the past 90 days, and tell you how much they sold for. And so she would go to let's say she saw a Tonka, those nice trucks, toy trucks, the real metal, all that, and it's selling for $5 at the yard sale. She goes on her cell phone, it's selling for $50 on eBay. Boom, she buys it. If it was selling for $5 on eBay and they're asking $50, she wouldn't buy it. She'd do that all day Saturday, put the auctions up all week. She was clearing, single mom, she's clearing $1,000 to $1,100 a week, just one day a week at yard sales doing it. So, and there's like dozens of ways you can make money with even no website. But eBay.
Creative. Yeah. You're too magnificent to need a mentor.
You've been through yourself.
Yeah. People can reach you here. You've got a Facebook.
That's the trailer for the documentary that's coming out. So yeah, it'd be wonderful if you leave a comment there. I'll answer you personally for sure.
Okay. And that documentary, is that also the one on your dad too? Part of it?
Yeah. It's called The American Entrepreneur, where he came from Syria as an entrepreneur, as a little kid, turned me into an entrepreneur, and then I've helped tens of thousands of entrepreneurs. So I thought you had to be dead to have a documentary. I sort of, when the producer came to me, I'm like, I thought you were supposed to be dead for this. So that's that. And then I really want to give them something. If they are interested in business, I want to really help them. This link you see here, screwthecommute.com/automate free, is a book that we sell for $27, but it's yours free because Emily will beat me on the head with an anchor or something from the Navy if I don't give you something. But anyway, this book, we actually figured it out. Just one of the tips in this book, we estimated it about 2 years ago, has saved me 7.5 million keystrokes and helped me. It just makes me lightning fast responding to inquiries. And you can ethically steal customers from people too slow to get back to them, because the first person that gets back has a great chance of getting the business. And it's got all kinds of tips and tricks and automating your cell phone. And I got up to 150,000 subscribers and 65,000 customers, handle them with just the tips in this book without pulling my hair out. So this is very powerful. It's screwthecommute.com/automate free. And if you have any questions, you just email me at tom@screwthecommute.com. I think she has it.
Right. Yeah. And then that's where you can also listen to your podcast, right? How many episodes do you have?
We just, we're coming up on 498. We'll hit 500 here in a week or so. So that'll be a big milestone. Sure.
That's
but none of them are worth anything except yours. So your episode is the only one I care about.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember what number it is?
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So basically you go to screwthecommute.com/ and then the episode number, and you can go see me abuse Emily for a little bit.
I should remember the number, but I don't. I could have put it up here, but I'll put it in the show notes when I publish it as a podcast episode. Thank you so much, Tom, for being on the Onward podcast.
My pleasure. And my dad says hi from the ever after, and you're doing great work with all the people that you coach. And I hope to come back someday, because I wasn't even warmed up yet.
No, we'll have to have you back. I'll add you to the list of the people I'm interviewing, and I'll
me and Stephanie, yeah. Talk about a contrast of interviews, right?
Yeah.
Stephanie is so interesting, but is so deep, and oh man, my head's gonna explode.
And you're just like every guest is different.
I didn't know that ladies couldn't get credit cards. That was in 1974. She was saying that's crazy.
Yeah, and then
nobody asked me to sign for them. Yeah.
I know. And then there's another video, which I need to post probably tomorrow, where she's saying about the law that they passed that you can't not hire a woman because she's pregnant. Or
right.
They would tell you, no, you've got kids. You might have to go pick them up from school. I won't hire you. That used to happen too in her lifetime, and she's just 69, I think.
My favorite
Long
number.
way.
All
So,
right.
all right. Thanks, Tom. I'll see
All
you in
right.
a few minutes.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate the audience tonight and your comments. And thanks, Tom, for being such an awesome guest. I'm going to play my quick outro video, and we're going to end this episode. And I'll see you next week. I'm live here every Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern. And tomorrow I'll publish who the next guest is. So I just love meeting so many different people and having these conversations. And the fact that we can do it live and people can participate and post comments and things is a lot of fun. Let's see, I was checking. It looked like there are new comments. Oh, someone said, thanks, Emily. Thanks, Tom. Very entertaining and informative. Great information. Yes, thanks, Virginia. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll hopefully see you guys next week and let other people know about the Onward podcast. Okay, thank you.
The Onward podcast is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about my coaching programs and how you can work with me. Let's move onward together.